Hi, I'm Ed Asner. I think I am. Yeah, I am. I am.
Hi, Brian. It's so good to see you.
Good to
Always
see you
it's
too.
good to see you.
You too, you too. So, I guess we're going to talk about Ed Asner today and how you met him and how we met him, probably right around the same time.
Who are you?
Brian Connors, Ed.
And what do you do?
Nothing.
I think I first met you on the occasion of the film Good Men, which he had done with Mark Rydell.
Correct.
And I think it was screening at a film festival, and so it came to my attention. And honestly, anything that has Ed's name on it, I will lap up.
I was at Radio City in 1982. Ed was at the height of Lou Grant, or the show was ended. Ronald Reagan was president. We'll talk about that.
God, you're ugly.
Thank you very much, Ed.
I had adored Ed's work. I grew up, as most of us did, with Mary Tyler Moore and Lou Grant and, Rich Man, Poor Man and Roots and all those. So that automatically was, the utmost respect.
I was engaged at the time, and my
Oh, how many times has that been?
none of your business, Ed.
I always was so profoundly grateful for his stint as a SAG president.
Right.
And his activism and just his very large and generous heart.
My fiance was a Rockette at Radio
Oh,
City.
yeah, that's right. Gavin MacLeod was married to a Rockette.
That's right. You did tell me that.
He's just kind of everything you want him to be. He's so friendly and personable and accessible, and then of course that's beneath the exterior of being a total curmudgeon.
Right, right.
And you just know automatically that he's pulling your leg. And once you realize that, you're good. But if people don't realize he's pulling their leg, then they could kind of go, what's the deal with him? And so I knew right away, he's bawdy, he's irreverent.
I don't have to say anything, you just shut up.
I had you and Mark Rydell
Right, Mark.
and Ed on the show for Good Men.
Why did building number 7 of the World Trade Center come down as well?
It's a 47-story high building, and it was 100 yards away.
And then I had gone to see the play,
Plays in the Park.
Plays in the Park.
Oxymorons.
It's Santa Monica Playhouse. And so it was a treat to see him, that way as well. And also I had him back on the show when he did FDR
Right.
at the Pasadena Playhouse, kind of the reopening of the Pasadena Playhouse. And so I was astounded that, at his age, that he could pull that off. That's not
One-man show, yeah.
Yeah, under the best of circumstances,
Right.
it's a tough gig.
We did the Plays in the Park. You and Mark Rydell again did Oxymorons.
Oxymoron.
You were
yeah.
very funny in that. We did it at different places
Good
around
script.
the country. What's
Good
that?
script. Good script.
Thank you very much. Then we filmed that Good Men in one day, 6 hours, something like that, in a house in Malibu. It was very controversial. As you know, it's about 9/11.
Yep.
Ed was part of the 9/11 Truth Movement.
The world turned a blind eye on the Holocaust. That same blind eye is being turned on what happened at 9/11. President Eisenhower, in his farewell address, said to beware of the military-industrial complex. Was he a conspiracy nut too?
And then I remember the night before, I was trying to decide who's going to play which character, because they were both good, and we switched parts when we read it. But I knew this one thing was so close to Ed, and I thought, well, maybe we go the opposite, rather than Ed play himself.
Yeah.
But then I said, no.
Yeah.
Ed wound up, carrying his own views about the subject.
Yeah.
Look at my DVD. All it takes for evil to flourish is for good men to do nothing.
I came across, or how I came across Dan Lauria.
And he's still doing theater. He just
He's going to do mornings at 7.
And he got great notices for the Vince Lombardi
Yes.
piece.
Yeah, he did
So
Vince
he's
Lombardi.
still
And now I believe he's doing mornings at 7 with an all-star cast.
amazing.
Yeah, the guy never
Amazing.
stops working. He loves theater.
Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this sun of York. And all the clouds that lowered upon our house in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. Grim-visaged war has smoothed his wrinkled front, and now instead of mounting barbed steeds... Nope, that's wrong.
What happened with me is I would go to Ed's events, poker games, celebrity poker games for charity for the Ed Asner Family Center, and sometimes his birthday parties, and I would run into Dan. So I got to know Dan gradually, and I know that Dan used to play poker with Ed and a bunch of other actors. So I just thought, okay, I created this scenario where we can't get Ed, he's stuck in Sonoma, and he asked Dan Lauria to go to this poker game dressed as the Pope.
You don't know me. It's not the real Pope. He is Dan Lauria from Wonder Years. I know him because I studied English in China by watching a TV show.
I just came here to play cards. Gentlemen, all the world is a stage. And all the men and women are merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. And one man in his time plays many roles. So let's play poker. You had a good night?
Yes. You look familiar to me. Did we work together? Were you ever in the Wonder Years?
No. But I recognized you, Dan. And I know you're not the Pope because I've met him, of course.
Yeah.
But, hey, would you pass something along to Ed Asner for me?
Oh, wow. That's very generous of you. Ed would really appreciate that.
It makes no sense whatsoever.
Of course not.
But Dan said, yeah, okay, fine.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, tell me what you want me to do.
Ed, it's Dan. Listen, I know you're up in Sonoma, but give us a call, will you?
I'm a friend of Ed Asner.
I don't know who that is.
I had a rough day, okay? I'm here tonight to play poker with my friend, including Ed Asner.
You had a rough day. I had a rough day.
I'm looking for Eddie Asner.
Who?
He is American icon. He's a Hollywood big star. He
No,
wins
Denzel is an American
eight
icon.
Emmy and 5 Golden Globe. It's huge.
You know, you got me with a bunch of crazy people here. You got me doing the Pope. Ed Asner missed something by not being here.
Oh, you're
Right?
telling me. Oh, yeah. We missed Ed, too, though.
Oh, yeah. When you're not looking beautiful, what do you do?
Well, actually, I'm a lawyer.
A lawyer?
Yes, indeed.
You know what Spencer Tracy said about lawyers?
What?
He said acting is not the lowest profession in the world. As long as we have politicians and lawyers, us actors will have something to look down on.
Oh, I can vouch for that.
I've worked with some very prominent stars, and I'm very grateful, very lucky, very fortunate. But they don't give me the hard time.
Right.
There's other actors that give me the hard time.
Oh, I'm supposed to see Ed. I'm his producer.
Were you?
Yes, I was the star of The Hangover.
Were you? Don't
Yeah.
touch me.
Sorry.
Okay.
Dan and Ed are like, what do you want me to do? What do you want?
Right.
Like the thing about the nun, you want to be a nun or you want to be the Pope? I'll be a nun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just simple. They want to work.
Yeah.
They love working. So that's how we came across Dan.
I went to the Library of Television and Radio, and I actually got a clip of the pilot that was made with you and Barbara Stanwyck, where she was a social worker. My God, it's so old, you look good. That's how old it is. Yeah, I wish Charlie and Durning and Jack Klugman was still with us. Remember that night? Remember when I found Charlie Durning's first time on film? What the hell was the name of that? Oh, Sticky My Fingers, Fleet My Feet. I'll never forget that. Boy, did you guys bust Charlie's chops. And Charlie, who saw everything I ever did, he would always put his arm around my shoulder after the play and say, in another 20 years, you're going to be an actor. And at that dinner after that play, he put his arm around me and he said, all right, another 10 years, you'll be an actor. And I couldn't believe it. You looked at the great Charles Durning and said, Charlie, are you an actor yet? And Charles Durning, he held out his thumb and forefinger very close and he said, Ed, I'm getting real close. And Peter Falk reached in, pushed his fingers together and said, I think you're there, Charlie.
Charlie Robinson, the great Charlie Robinson.
God rest his soul.
And, I had him actually on the show when he was doing, it was a play called Whipping Man.
So while we were filming Senior Entourage, Charlie was working like crazy.
Right.
He was recurring on 4 different TV shows. So finally we have a day where we can get him, and we shot at the Shangri-La right down the street. And Charlie came, and Ed couldn't be there that day, but we had Helen ready and we had Mark. But Charlie brought his friend, just like, I'm going to this shoot, I'm going to bring my friend. He didn't tell me.
Right.
And he brings ERNEST HARDEN Jr.
It's funny, I got a little story with Ed Asner. We used to have the same agent years ago, an agency called Jack Fields.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Yeah, and we were at a big party. And, my friend invited me, and there was all these big stars there. It was Ed Asner, Don Rickles,
wow.
and Charles Bronson when he was living. That's how long ago it was.
Wow.
A lot of different people, Johnny Mathis, you name it, the icons. And we were all waiting for our cars. Barbara McNair, that's right, she was there. And we were waiting for our cars, and it's funny, Ed Asner and Don Rickles were going at it, telling jokes, and we were cracking up. But Ed Asner was holding his own with Don Rickles. Yeah. Oh man, he had us cracking up. And then it seems like Don Rickles kind of ran out of material, and he looked over back at me. Man, you black. Wow. And everybody bust out laughing. Ed Asner said, oh my gosh, oh no, here he goes. Somebody call the hospital, call the ambulance. He just broke a gasket. And he said, man, you could do night watch in the army or something, huh? Nobody would see you. Man, do you sweat ink? And I'm like, oh my God. And I didn't say a word. I just was like, okay. And Ed Asner was his head down like, oh my gosh, he's gone.
I loved seeing him live on stage. And we talked about that because that tied in with his politics and, the legacy that FDR left this country.
Of course, yeah.
And so, we always had something interesting to talk about. And then when he wrote this book, The Grouchy Historian,
right,
which you can get in your bookstores.
I've read it.
It is such a joy. I recommend it to everyone. We actually offered it as a Pledge Drive premium at the station. So I had him on. And of course, he wrote it with Ed Weinberger. So it's simultaneously so informative and so educational and hilarious. I mean, it's laugh out loud funny. So who would think that the Constitution and what's going on in this crazy world right now could be so funny?
I am your left-hand man right now, today, your left-hand man.
Left hand.
Yeah. I'd like to be your right-hand man, but I'm not on that other side of you.
How would you like to meet the right hand? Huh? I'll show you.
At the very end, he was working right up to
Yes,
the
he was.
end.
Yes, he was.
I think that's why it came as a shock, even though it shouldn't have been, his passing, but it still was a shock.
I know for me, as you saw in that footage that we have with him where he's talking about whether he's going to make it to 100 or not, and his family is betting on it.
I'm 91 now, and next November I'll be 92. So that leaves me 8 years to reach 100. And I was thinking, if that's possible, I don't know that it is, not after suffering the treatment I've suffered from this man. It's been horrible. And he shortened my life by at least a day.
It was Mark Rydell, who I knew from the Actors Studio, who said, you got to get this play to Ed Asner. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get this? And he gives me this number. And I'm like, okay. I call the number. I hear Ed's voice. My first message was back from Ed, which I played for you on my iPhone, was, Brian?
Brian, this is Ed Asner. I just wanted you to know that I read the plays last night and thought they were delicious. I'll call you on 818.
So I saved that.
Yeah.
It's still on my iPhone 11 years later.
Yeah.
And I thought, gosh, I've got Ed Asner and Mark Rydell. I said, I just got to film this. And I asked Mark, and Mark said he'd do it. And then he said, but you got to ask Ed. So I went to the Pasadena Playhouse, and I saw him between his... That's the other thing, too. He sometimes did that one-man show, matinee and evening.
Matinee and
okay?
evening. Yeah.
That is hard, one-man show.
Yeah.
So I see him in between his matinee and his show, downstairs in the dressing room. He was having... I'd never met him. I watched the show, and I said, Ed, I want you to do this thing. And he goes, who's directing? And I go, I am. He goes, it's like that, right?
Who's directing?
I am.
What? You?
Ed, no one's going to believe that. It's your honest reaction. And then I said, I go, well, who are we going to get to direct? Clint Eastwood or something? I go, he's a Republican. I don't know. So,
a good director.
Yeah, a good director. So he said, I got a soft spot for Mark. And then he told me this story about Mark directed Ed on a Gunsmoke.
Oh, no kidding.
And Mark was directing him, and Ed fell off a horse.
Oh, my God.
And he was embarrassed and stuff like that. And then,
God.
so anyway, Ed got back up on the horse, and it turns out they've been friends ever since.
I was going to ask you how long they had known each other.
I think it's 50-something years. Wow. I think it goes back to Gunsmoke.
They switched horses on me. I couldn't get my right foot in the stirrup. And fortunately, he did a right turn when he was supposed to.
But those guys fought like crazy and were competitive and funny. And we went all over the country with Good Men, played in 80 film festivals around the world.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we went to do what you saw, the plays in the park at the Santa Monica Playhouse. Ed, we were going to have Ed for 4 weekends. But right when we were in the middle of rehearsal, Ed got a Broadway show. So he left us after our first weekend. And then George Segal came in,
right,
which was pretty amazing. We had
God rest his soul. Another great one.
Another great one. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So there I was working with Mark and Ed on screen, and then on stage. It was a dream. And people used to say to me, "What's it like directing Ed Asner and Mark Rydell?" And I said, "I don't direct those guys."
I was just going to say, directing them? Are you kidding?
No, I just here's the script, here's an idea, run with it. And whatever they did, I loved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
well, and again, both of them also beneath that, crazy veneer, utmost professionals.
Oh yeah.
So really the skill level, even when it seems to be a casual conversation or reminiscence, it's
well,
it's like an improv scene.
That's how I got the idea for Senior Entourage, because we had gone to so many festivals where they were honoring Ed or honoring Mark or both. I would see these guys on things like your show or radio interviews, television interviews, print newspapers. And I would, every time they got in front, or a Q&A in front of an audience, it was like, Abbott and Costello or, Laurel and Hardy. These guys were funny.
Yeah.
They were cracking up audiences everywhere. And I thought, I got to get these guys on camera again, not in a short. Mm-hmm. And that's how
Senior Entourage.
Senior Entourage came about.
Available soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, it's available now.
Now.
It's streaming everywhere. It's streaming
great.
on Amazon and Vudu and Comcast and Spectrum. And then we did Senior Entourage with you and Mark.
Oh.
With you and Mark.
That's a hottie.
Helen Reddy.
Yeah.
Your dear friend Marion Ross, who you introduced us to.
She's a cutie.
She's a cutie, and she would have never done that film unless you had asked her.
Oh, I don't.
No, Ed, without you. She even let us shoot in her home like you did.
Call her up, but I'm not put the question to her.
I'm going to call her up right now.
All right.
No, and then also Charlie Robinson.
Charlie Robinson, he lightens one's mood no matter what you're feeling like.
He's a wonderful actor.
He's a lovely, lovely man. And the combination of Marion Ross and him, we're bound to be successful in film.
We've got a hit. We've got a hit on our hands.
Yeah.
And of course, the cast is rounded out with a lot of young stars. We have Ian Fisher is not only a co-producer and a director of photography.
Is he?
Yeah, he's also an actor. He plays a vampire in the
Fisher the Fisher?
Fisher the Fisher.
I'll be damned.
Ian Fisher. And his lovely wife from Denmark.
Oh boy, she's a hottie.
Catherine. Oh, no.
She's a hottie.
Be careful, Ed.
What?
He's very, very protective of her.
I'm glad he is. He needs to be.
He's young and strong. He could kick both her asses at the same time.
Why? Why do you say that?
I just know that he could.
Have you seen him do it?
No, I've never seen him get violent.
I've got a cane. Remember that.
Wow.
That'll keep him a social distance away.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, yeah, we should probably be doing all that. But what else? Oh, and then Dahlia Wingard is in the film. David Lockhart plays Tom Cruise in Senior Entourage.
David Lockhart.
Senior Entourage. How could you not like Senior Entourage? Just the name. You don't even have to say who's in it or anything. Just say, hey, we're making a movie. It's called Senior Entourage. And people are like, I want to be a part of it.
David is the one who brought us up here. David is very involved in trying to save the Rio Theater.
It's good to have the chains off,
Yeah, yeah.
They were really chafing me. He's got the dog Samantha, doesn't he?
He's got that beautiful dog, and who's been trying to make with Ian's dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be the day. Yeah, I know. That's a lot of it going around. Mm-hmm.
You can't miss Ed and Mark dressed up as nuns. So that should tell you right there.
That actually just happened the night before. And I thought, wow, we're driving down to this location in Palos Verdes. This could be like an hour and a half, 2-hour ride. I said, what are we going to do? So I said, you know what? Let's just film them on the way down. And then I said, okay, let's dress them up as nuns, right? This the night before, right?
This just came to you.
Yeah, this just came
like
to me.
Like a message from God.
It just came to me.
Ryan got on these crazy ideas.
It was all an accident, And then we drove down, but they're very funny together.
I thought you said I was getting my own car. Why is he in it if it's my car?
We can't afford 2 cars, Ed.
So many of the other people in the film are people that I've had on my show or been on the periphery with.
It's funny, did you know Charlie was my best friend out here, and we go way back to like 1975. We met on a set of an NBC television show called Buffalo Soldiers. See, back then, I got that show because I was already a semi-regular on a hit show, comedy show, The Jeffersons. Charlie told me a story that was so funny back in the day when he was in Houston, because he grew up in Houston. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about how he got into some kind of bar fight. And after the fight, as the fight was going on, somebody called the police. And the police came and they were going to arrest the guys for fighting. And then the people around them said, no, he's not the one. Charlie's not the one. That other guy, he started it and all that. All right, boy, well, I'm going to tell you something. I want you to go home and don't turn around. Don't you turn around. Go home right now. Don't turn around. So that bonded us, and we got to be friends, man. We worked on the set talking about our 3-picture deals like a lot of those actors were doing, and I got a 3-picture deal with Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ got second billing, you know. He sort of became a mentor to me. You know, he was older, so I became his little brother, and hey man, teach me, man. And so he helped me get into something like the actor studio, prestigious actor studio, where they deal with scenes from plays, and study them and analyze them. And it's kind of a gym for actors. I love it. And also, soon after I got my chance to kind of work, I got cast in a film starring opposite Miss Betty Davis. Wow. Yeah. And I remember one time I was talking to him and I said, hey Charlie, man, the Black Panther's really doing well, you know? Why don't we just go and see the Black Panther? He said, oh, nope, Ernest, nope, I don't want to see that. I don't watch nothing where a man is stronger than everybody else in the movie. I want to see the human experience, and I want to see humans having a real experience, real people. Charlie was a great, great actor, great dramatic actor. And it's ironic because people mostly know him from the comedy. He wanted to showcase his talent and express himself through theater. But you know what? God is good, because a few months ago, he got a chance to do this play. And people were saying Charlie, his work was like watching Miles Davis doing this thing. And what is good is Charlie called me and told me that, hey, they had a deal with PBS and they're gonna show it all over the world. So he left a legacy. I miss Charlie. He's my brother. I'm sorry, man. I just amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see.
Donna, I know that you've had Marion Ross on your show.
The lovely Marion Ross.
The lovely Marion Ross.
One of the nicest people I've ever met in my whole life,
Truly,
by the way.
yeah. Now, you interviewed us together when we were paying tribute to Ed Asner.
Right.
But had she been on your show before?
Yes, I had her on actually to talk about her autobiography,
Oh, okay.
My Days, Happy and Otherwise.
You can hold it up for the
available
camera.
in bookstores everywhere. And it's a wonderful read, by the way, because she's another one of those people that, you know, we know her as Mrs. Cunningham. We know her from TV. And of course, she has a long theatrical background that she brought to the table long before Happy Days.
So we had a day of shooting coming up, and I thought, God, we got all these old white dudes, myself included.
Right.
I said, you know, we need some more women, you know what I mean? So I just called Ed, and I said, hey Ed, you know, I said, we're gonna film again another day, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I really want to get another woman in. We had Helen Reddy. And he goes, Marion Ross. I said, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so then next I hear is Marion says yes. You know, this is a micro budget film. Not only does she say yes, she says we can shoot at her house.
Wow.
And she just opens up her house to us when we shoot there. You know, that day that I shot with her is really the only day that I ever spent time with her.
Wow.
Other than on your radio show.
Right.
But it was all through Ed, and I did get to hear Marion say the F-bomb. I'd never, Did they use the
Old,
F-bomb?
old school. Old
There you
school.
go.
is
Well,
it?
likewise, too. As soon as I got into Marion's house, I forget what we were talking about, and all of a sudden, the frickin' F-bomb comes out of Mrs. Cunningham's mouth.
Oh, my
And I
gosh,
said,
that's so
Marion,
funny.
will you say that on camera? She goes, yeah, of course. But she was a delight and a doll. And you pointed out, too, that scene with the Chinese girl, Catherine P., who I have very special regard for.
I'm curious as to how Ed came up with her name so quickly, like just knew.
He's got a major crush on her.
Oh, I see.
Oh, he does. And they flirt like crazy. She does, too. By the way,
That's
you know, there's
funny.
all the Me Too movement and everything else, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
long
yeah.
overdue. And,
Yeah.
You know, but not only the men, you know how wild and irreverent Ed can be, but that was true of Helen
Oh,
and
yeah.
Marion, too.
Oh, yeah.
They were very, very spicy, saucy, and
Yeah.
racy,
Yeah.
you know, in this day and age.
What's next? Are there going to be more?
Well, I'm glad you asked. We hope to do sequels. This, what we're currently in, is not necessarily a sequel, but we want to do Senior Trip to Italy.
Ciao, Brian, come stai? Vieni, andiamo.
This is great.
Hey Brian, I really love your movie, Senior Entourage. It was so fun, but I have a better idea.
Oh, I can imagine.
We should shoot one in Italy, and I'm gonna be your guide because you know you need protection. Like I said, you need protection.
Senior Trip to Italy.
To Italy, yes, let's do that.
I
Let's
want to do
that.
them all over. I want to do Senior Trip to China, Senior Trip to Italy.
Italy
Senior
first.
Trip, Italy, okay, Italy
Okay,
first.
okay, Italy first.
We need some lira, babies.
Oh, we'll see. We can print some money.
I hope they bring it tonight, your friends. I hope they.
We can print some.
That's for you.
Oh, fun.
Senior Trip to China.
I have a Chinese name already named this one. It's called Lauria.
Senior Trip to Sonoma. In fact, this almost started, I believe you saw some of that footage of me and Ed in Sonoma. That was all a crazy accident, too.
Here I am at the Marriott Renaissance Resort and Spa in Sonoma County. And it's a lovely place to be, let me tell you. The weather is ideal, and the sun is out, and we're in the middle of December, so we're not doing badly.
And then I thought, okay, we got that. And now there's this other thing that came up with Dan Lauria, which you saw. And I just thought, you know, somehow or another, we have to create a movie with this. Because we have this lovely Japanese actress, MIKI Kaneko, who plays piano. She had recently lost her grandfather, so she had something to say about death.
I lost my grandfather last year. And I couldn't go back to Japan and see him. I wanted to thank him in person, but I couldn't. It happened suddenly, so yeah, I couldn't do anything. No one couldn't do anything. Just last year.
you know, I was thinking, looking at some of the footage, your conversations with Ed, and talking about, he told some great stories about Paul Newman, and you told great stories about all the celebrities that you saw on Night of
100 Stars.
Night of 100 Stars. And he had mentioned doing Fort Apache, the Bronx, with
Right.
Paul Newman.
Right.
And so I thought, oh my God, you know, all the people that he's worked with over the years, all the stories that he must have to tell.
Tell us about that experience.
Well, it was a wonderful. I buddied up to the two cops who wrote the story. One night I tested them to see how many times I could bounce off my belly on the table. And I, you know, there's a lot of muscle underneath that fat.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah.
You were a football player, right?
Well, yeah.
In college in Kansas? Or
High school.
High school,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Anyway, and I spent an evening with Cagney. I forget who the actor was. I had him over and heard all about his horse farm. And
of course, looking at you here, I'm thinking, you know, has anybody ever told you you look like Carl Malden? You know, because they, you know, Paul Newman had worked with Carl Malden and things too.
I used to stand in for Carl Malden.
Don't leave home without it.
Don't leave home without it, yeah. So it could happen to you.
Wow.
Don't carry cash.
Wow.
Carry the American Express card. One of the second or third times I did it, I memorized the speech from On the Waterfront.
Oh my gosh.
Where he's on the dock and he goes, boys, this is my church. And if you don't think Christ is down here, I memorized the speech, right? And then Malden goes, he's like shocked at first. And he comes over to me. He goes, you know, this is what he says to me. He goes, that speech came right off the pulpit. Apparently, that speech was a sermon that priest in Hoboken or wherever it was, or Jersey City. Yeah, and apparently Bud Schulberg, the author, they took that speech verbatim from the pulpit, from the priest, and put it into the movie.
Wow.
And here was Malden. And then what he did was he took his hat and he ceremoniously put it on me and he gave me his hat. So.
Who did Ed really revere in his long and illustrious career? He's worked with the best of the best.
Other than there's when he's sitting on the toilet on the phone in Senior Entourage, which again was just sort of like spontaneous. He goes, yeah. And then I said, what about the cookie? Yeah, and he grabs the cookie, he's eating the cookie. It was all sort of spontaneous and crazy. But in that short scene, he thinks he's talking to, but of course he knows, Dick Van Dyke.
Dickie, that you? Mark and I are involved in selling this idea. It's called Senior Entourage. I remember watching you with Mary Tyler Moore, and I learned a lot from watching you and Mary Tyler Moore. I consider you two my tutors.
We are thinking about doing a Bollywood entourage, although Bollywood apparently is having a very big COVID problem, so they've been shut down.
I'm sure.
But we ran across this lovely woman, Sandy Kaur, and this is her album. It's called Divine Bliss, and it's really quite lovely and spiritual. The Indian philosophy, they believe in reincarnation.
Sure.
So wow, I mean, gosh, your wife is a singer. That's amazing.
Yes. Very blessed to have her. She's recording her music albums this year. She did one last year.
Oh, okay. That's great. Great.
Keeps me busy. So reincarnation, you could, look at Ernest's shirt. I could be a fish next life.
Really?
That's what reincarnation is.
Really?
Yeah. If I'm dead today as a human, I might come back as a fish. I might come back as a bird. I might come back as an animal.
I always thought that we as humans came back as humans. Now he says that we had to go through a process of coming back as a bug, a fish. I mean, I've been a bug, a grasshopper, all these things, and then I finally get to be a human. But when you become a human, I always thought that humans come back and they have to reach a certain consciousness.
How did you feel when you got the news? And, because I certainly knew his age, I knew all that, but I just couldn't imagine him being gone.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I would have you know that To liven up the situation in my house, I suggested to the surrounding family that everybody pick a year that they thought I might last to.
Oh, by the way, I believe his father owned iron and metal business.
Oh, wow.
And I saw the sign, strength, indestructible, and he's never going to go. I once said to you, I don't know if you remember this, when we first started in Oxymorons, when it plays in the park, and when we first did it at the Santa Monica Playhouse, you used to run on stage, and it scared the heck out of me.
Why?
I used to, because you were in your 80s, and you were running on stage, and I used to beg you, please, Ed, don't just start on stage out of breath, but you kept on running and running, and then years later, we're doing it again. You're still running. I couldn't get you to stop running. And then I
today I stopped running.
You stopped running. But
Yeah.
I used to say to you and your lovely daughter, Liza, who's been so supportive.
You think she's lovely, huh?
Well, she's certainly supportive of me when you...
Yeah.
how would I get to someone like you if I couldn't call Liza?
Well, there are many ways to get to me.
But anyway, I finally said to you and Liza, I said, hey, look, I want us all and Ed to be doing this when he's 100. So don't run on stage anymore. Just
Okay.
take it easy. So
I've heard you, and I'll start to implement what you said.
okay, deal.
When someone passes that you love or you have a strong affection for, and sometimes if you know, as in the case of Ed, that it's a full life that they've lived. It's a life well lived.
But on Sunday, you're doing a table read.
Yes.
Of It's a Wonderful Life. But let's talk about your cast. You have Bill Pullman, Carol Kane, Vanessa Williams,
Richard Kind,
Mia Farrow.
So
this is going to be a big deal. It's a benefit, and the benefit is for...
the benefit? Well, it's for the Asner Center for Autistic Families.
Yeah.
It's to help the families as well as to help the kids.
It's a tremendous legacy that he's left, both through his art and his activism. And
of course, Mark was Oscar nominated, but Ed, 7 Emmys, 8 if you want to
count the Canadian
Emmy.
Right.
And 5 Golden Globes. Did we mention that Ed has 7 Emmys or 8 Emmys? How many Emmys do you have?
Well, one of them is a Canadian Emmy, so the 8th Emmy is a Canadian
We don't
Emmy.
count that. 7 Emmys and...
Why, Canada does distinguished work. What are you talking about?
All right, he's got 8 Emmys and 5 Golden Globes. I snuck into Night of 100 Stars. I probably bumped into him at an elevator, but they thought I was security, and I was standing in an elevator bank, and they wheeled out James Cagney. And he was in his 80s.
No, he wasn't in an ambulance. He just wheeled out.
In a wheelchair. He was in
yeah.
a tuxedo. Then about 10 minutes later, Paul Newman walks off the elevator, right? Sees Cagney, and I was really this close, just a few feet away. They weren't doing this for me. They were whispering to each other. And Paul Newman got down on his knees, just like I am with you, the legendary Ed Asner. He got down on his knees and he said...
This isn't going to nasty,
No,
is it?
it's not going to get dirty or nasty. This was affectionate and real. And Paul said, Mr. Cagney.
Yes.
That's right. That's what he did. He woke up and he said, Paul Newman, like who's not going to recognize Paul Newman?
Hi, Paul.
That's right. And
Yeah.
then, guess what happened? Paul Newman, I think, was about 57 at the time. You were 53 in 1982. And Newman just started gushing like a little boy. He started saying, oh, Mr. Cagney, I loved your movies and I watched your movies
They're both pretty fair talents.
when I was a little boy. And I was a few feet away, Ed.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about you. I revere you. You've been so good to me and so generous to me.
Yeah, okay. All right, we'll skip that crap.
All right, we'll skip that crap. You never get soft, do you?
No, I get sorry. I'm. Look at me. I'm like Marsha.
After people are gone, then people take liberties, because
Yeah.
they're not there to defend themselves.
They're trying to do that now while I'm still alive.
There you go. This is what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. So we're on the record now. So anyway, my one experience with Paul Newman in that, we were backstage at Radio City. He did sneak. By the way, at one point he was doing this all the time. He was going, Patrick. He was calling me Patrick because I had changed my name tag. He's going, Patrick, can I get some beer at 51st and 6th? Can you get it in for me? And I said, I'm sorry, Paul. I was calling Paul. And I said, I'm sorry. I said, I can't. And sure enough, I don't know, a half hour later, Newman's walking down the hall with a case of beer, and he's handing it out to everybody. Princess Grace was there. She walks in, and then Paul's going, Princess, you want a beer? And she goes, oh, Paul, just a half. She goes like that, right? So they're drinking beer in the dressing room. I'm sitting with Paul Newman on one side of me, Princess Grace on the other side, and my fiance walks in with Gene Kelly with Rockette T-shirts and sweatshirts. We weren't supposed to be getting autographed, and Gene Kelly's autographing everything. Anyway, it was a fun night. Lives fully lived. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Donna, before I forget, tell us the names of your shows. I know the one on KPFK, but tell us about them all, your shows.
No, it's just the one on KPFK, Pacifica Performance Showcase. It's an arts and culture show. And originally started it off as more of a theater performance show. I always used to call it the poor man's LA Theater Works. It was more oriented toward that. And then as it evolved, due to a time change, and it was more in the afternoon, it became more of an interview-oriented show. And I brought in film, because I ran the film club at KPFK for about 6.5 years.
Zoom gully gully gully, zoom gully gully, zoom gully gully gully, zoom gully gully, zoom, zoom, zoom.
He's busy every day this month. It's like this weekend. What's the real Ed Asner doing? He's got a a table read of Elf.
Right.
And then he's got a table read of It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
So we couldn't get Ed, but we got Ed Asner impersonator.
Amazing grace, how sweet is.
I saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
So I hope there will be life in the tulips. The bulbs will start cracking open, and we can sniff and smell and buttonhole each and every one of them and make ourselves happy.